All right, let's get to the MVP market. Guys, I'd love to be the person to go and get exotic and make the case for, the Tyreek Hills of the world. We tried that last year. It didn't work out. The McCaffreys of the world, Brees Hall, whoever. They give the award now to quarterbacks again and again and again. So you have Mahomes as the favorite, Josh Allen a little under 10-1, Burrow sitting there at 10-1, Stroud at 10-1, Hurts 14-1. Or Jackson, it's going to be very, very tough for him to go and win it again now that he's got two in his trophy case. I can't make the case for him. Raheem, when I look at this board, the two guys that stand out to me, Allen, because of the lack of talent around Buffalo. And if Buffalo is going to have a big year, I think Josh is going to have a monstrous year. I don't want Buffalo's defense. I'm not as concerned about Diggs, but, they're changing the offense a little bit, the tight ends, the running game, etc. Buffalo is going to have a big year. Josh has to have a big year. So there's that correlation. Then it's Burrow and the narrative of him coming back and Cincinnati having a big year. And it's something he has not done before. So I can see that becoming kind of a media-driven type of narrative. So I'm looking at that MVP board. Those were the first two names that stood out to me. Allen, who's second on the list. Burrow, who's third on the list. MVP, what was the first thought you had?
Jalen Hurts, 14-1 to win MVP. You look at the Eagles, they're favorites in 14 out of their 17 games. They face the sixth easiest schedule in the NFL. And you look at some of the teams they face, like outside of Baltimore, Cincinnati, Dallas, they're not facing too many tough teams. And they get to take on the NFC South. And they face the 25th ranked schedule of opposing pass defenses and the 29th ranked schedule of opposing run defenses. You replace Brian Johnson with Kellen Moore. So I think this offense should be a lot better. I think there's value on them at 14-1. Now, you did mention Josh Allen, and I really like that one. But I think there's an obvious name that nobody has mentioned because he's the favorite. Patrick Mahomes, plus 450. He's going for his third straight Super Bowl. And last year, he played on a Chiefs team that led the league in drops. Now, I'm not advising you to go out there and take Patrick Mahomes at plus 450. But what I will say is that similar to the Chiefs' futures on them to win the Super Bowl, that's a bet that you want to have in your portfolio at some time this year. Whether the Chiefs come off a losing streak or they lose one game, let's say they lose to the Baltimore Ravens week 1. I think you need to add that to your portfolio because one thing that we've seen from this award is that not only does it come from quarterbacks, but it comes from repeat quarterback winners. Of the last 17 MVPs, only 6 were first-time winners. So that tells you that guys who are superstar quarterbacks are going to win multiple times. You're talking about Patrick Mahomes. He's only won twice. He's going to get that third MVP at some point in time. So I think at some point in time this year, you want to add that to your portfolio.
Listen, can't fight you on it, Raheem. We're talking about the best player on planet Earth, and it's very easy for him to kind of drive a narrative of him being the best. How's I just don't find that to be a particularly fun bet to have. You know what I mean? I get it. I understand it, but
JJ,
I want to dream bigger. That's the thing.
And that's why I gave out Jalen Hurts at 14-1 first.
That's correct. Right. It's like going to church and putting money in the collection basket. You're just paying for your good karma. It's a down payment for the right outcome. We're all going to heaven, but why not go ahead and just make that little extra commitment just to keep everything on the straight and narrow? That's the Patrick Mahomes. And I don't know, Dream, even if they do lose week 1, I mean, is the price going to change that much for Mahomes, plus 450? I do like it. You have to do it. It's a tithing. You must go ahead, make it, get that one out of the way, and then look at the market and see what you like. I already bet on Hurts to win the MVP of the NFL for this upcoming season because I also bet on the Eagles much earlier in the season to win the NFC conference. I have some Eagles, to win the Super Bowl. So if I'm going to do that, then I have to have some Hurts MVP exposure. But the one that hasn't come up in our conversation yet that I think is quietly, sitting there as an opportunity is none other than Jared Goff sitting there at 25-1. Now, if you look at this, and I think Dream did some of this on one of our shows, his completion percentage was over 67%. He threw for almost 4,600 yards last year, 30 touchdowns to 12 picks. and his rating was just under 98. If this Detroit team is the load that I think it's going to be, and Jared Goff gets to play quarterback in his optimal conditions for the vast majority of the games that the Lions are playing in, then 25-1 to me is a very compelling price for a little bit of exposure in the portfolio to Goff, fellas.
So I get that, House. I do wonder, though, with Goff, if you get a similar narrative to Purdy. Like I almost feel as if there are going to be people that look at Jared Goff, the media-driven narrative, and Raheem, I could see it happening already. He has monstrous statistics, but it's St. Brown, or it's Laporta, or it's Gibbs, or it's Johnson in the way he's drawing up plays, and I feel like that can hurt his candidacy. You see where I'm going with that, Raheem? Like I get the argument. I think it's a juicy price, but I do think that the haters will be out in full force against Goff the way they were against Purdy last year.
That is true, but you got to remember, Purdy was the front runner up until that game against the Baltimore Ravens on Christmas, where he threw 4.
He was going to win.
Yup. So as long as you put yourself in position, you also put yourself in position to be able to hedge out of it and grab someone else. So it's really just grabbing a position here because, look, 25-1 is, that's a crazy price for a team that we expect to be in the top 2 or 3 in the NFC.
Guys, I want to give you a bunch of players 20-1 or greater. We hit on Goff at 25-1. Dak at 20-1. Tua at 20-1. Rodgers 25-1. Stafford 30-1. Cousins 30-1. Lawrence 30-1. Herbert 30-1. Richardson 50-1. Kyler Murray 50-1. Caleb Williams 50-1. Out of any of those long shots, let's take Goff out of it because we discussed him, Raheem. Is there any deep dive long shot MVP candidate you might like?
Ooh. Deep dive long shot. I think Dak Prescott has a similar narrative as Josh Allen. With all of the pieces that he lost, the fact that they lost Tyron Smith, the fact that they lost Tyler Biadasz, the fact that they lost guys on defense, Stephon Gilmore. If the Cowboys can somehow overperform, he has a narrative in his favor. And we know Dak Prescott is a top 5 quarterback. So I'm not really crazy about it at 20-1, but if you were to take a shot, I wouldn't be mad at that. Now, another one. This might sound crazy because I've been talking crazy about him all off season. Anthony Richardson. The one thing that, has always been consistent about the MVP award over the last 5-10 years is second year quarterbacks. Second year quarterbacks, they tend to thrive. And if he's able to just, overcome expectations, that 35-40-1 might have some value. But I think, CJ Stroud is probably being a little bit overlooked, but that's not really a long shot.
Yeah. So your long shot would be Goff. You know who's the one I like? And I don't think they're going to have a good year. I don't. I'm out on this team. I bet them under. I'm betting them to miss the playoffs. If the Rams somehow, some way have a big season, I kind of think it's Matthew Stafford driven, guys. Last year he played out of his freaking mind. If he's got one more year like that and the Rams going, stick it up my you-know-what, 30-1 is not a bad number on Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, the problem is, though, they don't give the MVP to a team that underperforms its previous season. And I think that the Rams are poised to underperform.
Well, that's the thing. We don't like the Rams this year. Yeah. I'm just saying if they go and exceed, then
you're right.
I just think that's a good number. You know what I mean?
Right. I think that's the problem with all of these long shots outside of Jared Goff is that we think all of these teams are going to be bad. And, in order to win MVP, your team has to win around 13 games. Do we really think the Cowboys are going to win 13 games? Do we think the Colts are going to win 13 games? Do we think the Rams are going to win 13 games? I don't see it from any of those teams. So that's what makes these very difficult bets.
Let me say this crazy thing, though. And this is not possible. I wish the odds were better than was it 50-1? Caleb Williams has a kind of appeal from the perspective of the league is ready to anoint its next superstar. Now, CJ Stroud had an amazing year last year, and wasn't, what did he finish? He finished in the top 5 for MVP, I think. But, it takes something really extraordinary to consider a rookie, because there's plenty of ways for Caleb Williams to be recognized if he's extraordinary. So the odds don't give you enough return for the unlikelihood. But I don't think it's like completely impossible that the Bears end up being pretty effing good. Their defense, especially, has been catching my eye so far this preseason. So if that would be a direction I would consider, but I'm not going to bet it.
Gut feel, guys. MVP 2024 NFL season. Raheem, are you saying Jalen Hurts or are you saying Mahomes?
I'm going between Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. It's one of
You got to pick one. No. Who's the pick?
Patrick Mahomes.
I'm going Joe Burrow. House?
Patrick Mahomes.
You guys are no fun. And what can I say?